This episode, I'm doing it with Interspace Projections. It is my stepbrother's stepbrother, so pretty much he's just a good friend. We did a podcast together over Zoom. He lives up in Washington State, near Seattle, and I believe in Everett. We recorded this podcast about a week ago now. About a week ago. This podcast was a Zoom call, so that was a first for me, using Zoom and then also doing a podcast on Zoom, because I usually do like the in-person podcast. But once he comes down back to California, I will be doing an in-person one with him, so that should be cool. Hope everyone has been doing well. What's going on with me? Let's see what's been going on. I've been doing a lot of photography, started a photography job, hanging out with friends, writing ideas down for videos. Hello. I got a haircut today. My barber Anita cut this perfectly. Got all the natural curls up in there. Probably a weird camera angle for you guys up and personal, you know. Look at that. What color are my eyes? Brown? Alright, let's get into this podcast episode. Right before it starts, I made a random little some footage of videos that were going to come out for Dusky, but haven't come out for Dusky, so let's get into it.
And you can also try to keep it more stable since you are zooming in. Like, it looked like they were moving. They had like paper backgrounds that just kept going. Brian.
Look at that.
Yeah, again, people walking right down the middle.
Holy.
But anyway, how is it going this morning? Thanks for getting me up early.
Yeah, pretty good. I just woke up recently too.
Cool.
I was out like last night. I was talking to Colin before, like I was gonna text you and stuff, just like trying to take some notes about like certain things that you're into. But it just turned out to be like a long night. So I just did
I feel it.
Just a little bit of quick research.
Too,
yeah.
So.
What'd you do last night?
I've been working on a drawing for the last couple of days that it's taken me a while to get back into this thing. So I worked on it for a few months, and then I took about a year off. For whatever reason, lost interest in the drawing halfway through, or like, I'm not sure, whatever the reason is, took some time off on it, and recently rediscovered it. And I think it was up until like 4:00 in the morning working on just like an inch of like the top square part of it. It took me like 6 hours to work on.
Yeah. Was that the one you posted on Instagram today on your story?
Yeah, that's the one that I posted recently, just to kind of give an update, because like I feel like if I'm working on it this long, I should at least like, show something. But yeah, it feels weird to give you guys like one square piece of like an entire drawing. It's like, oh, I spent all night on this, and you're like, oh, well, you shaded
cool,
like
though. It's still like just the process of making the whole thing, just that one part.
Yeah, it's strange how long it takes just to make something look so dark and deep, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
Do you ever like your own place out there in Washington?
Yeah. So I'm living in Everett right now with my girlfriend.
Okay.
And I have like a little art studio that I've kind of like made one of our rooms into, basically.
Is that the room you're in right now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I kind of have you up on my art desk and stuff like scattered everywhere, but yeah.
Yeah, dude, I went to Target last night to buy a webcam, because I've never done I shouldn't say never, but like I've only done one video call like this for a podcast, but I never published it because my laptop like quality is so bad. But this is super cool to do like a remote podcast.
Fuck yeah, man.
Like this.
I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. If you wanted to start giving off like who you are and like kind of what you do on like for art and your Instagram and your company and your website, and we'll just get into it pretty much.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm just a dude that's doing art, really. Like that's basically what it boils down to, man. So like Interspace is what I kind of go under. Interspace Projections is like the full title of it. So You've probably seen my insignia. It kind of looks like an ISP, like a little like $ logo with an eyeball on top of it.
Yeah.
That stems from the inner space projection as part of my brand, I guess, quote unquote brand.
It's a brand. Definitely it's a brand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. It's kind of like the lifestyle of like, I mean, this whole thing kind of came from, I don't know, a couple of different inspirations, I guess. It's really just, it's just art, man. Like at the end of the day. So like, it's just me expressing my inner voice in the best way possible.
Yeah,
And I'm just trying to put it into the public in a way that they're, you know, they're able to digest. And that's what inner space is. That's what the t-shirts are all about. And things like that. It's just like, I've noticed that people just, that's the way they ingest art nowadays. And if that's what connects with them, then super. But really it's just about trying to get, you know, it's not really what I have to say out. It's really what the art says to you.
Yeah, definitely.
I have my own interpretation. I hope everybody else has their own. I hope they don't take what I have to say as what it is. I really hope that someone takes a look at something and really comes up with their own idea. Yeah, speaks to them in that way. That's kind of the goal of the whole thing.
Yeah, I was in the shower this morning, like thinking like really what art is, or like at least to me. And it's like, I guess it's more than like two things, but like the big two things I thought about is like expression from like the artist and like how you feel like looking at the art as like a spectator. And then also like the part of just like creating something. And it doesn't even matter what it is. There's like art's like everything, honestly.
It really is. Yeah, it totally is. It's really whatever the creator creates. Yeah. And that's what I've thought about this a lot too, since we decided to have this conversation, is what is art, or what is, you know, where does it come from? We've had this conversation as humans, like for many generations, like what is art? And I feel like it comes down to like our ability to connect with the God self, I guess, is what I would say. It's our ability as humans to be the God and create something from scratch and like give it life in a way. So really, if anything comes from your imagination, comes into reality, it's a birth of something. And that's a spiritual process. It's the art process. And that's the creative process that makes anybody an artist in any form. Like if you're making blankets or dyeing t-shirts or like putting together some rad fucking thing on a computer, which I have no idea how to do. That's an art form. Like
graphic design wise.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, it's like, I don't get that.
Type code or something. Yeah. Anything, you know, it's all art. And that's part of what gives us ability in God's self. And I think that's one thing that only art can tap into. So that's pretty good.
Go into like the t-shirts. Like I've seen like, you've been making the t-shirts with like the heat transfer, right?
Yeah.
Like, how's that process been? Like just making them, posting them on Instagram, selling them on your website? Cause I started doing that too. Not like artsy, but like starting the t-shirts. Like this was like 2 years ago, selling them on either like work, Instagram, or a website I had. Yeah. And the whole process of making them was really fun, and selling them to people and still seeing them like wear my shirts, even though I don't make them anymore. It's like, wow, I made that. And like someone's wearing it still. It's like weird.
Yeah, it is. It's totally a weird process. And the whole thing is, it's a learning curve for sure, because I'm not really like, I don't come from like fashion of any kind. Like I'm the kind of person that's like worn band t-shirts his whole fucking life.
Yeah.
So like, getting into like knowing, I don't know, designing t-shirts, I guess, is kind of strange. Damn, where the fuck was I going with this? Holy shit, I lost my train of thought. Excuse me.
That's all right.
But yeah, the process is really weird because it's not one that I've noticed that I can do for anybody else. I kind of have to do it for myself.
Yeah. And
the more that I tap into kind of speaking truly to what I think the shirt should be, the more people seem to dig it.
Yeah, no, that's so rad.
And so I'm sure you've noticed that with your t-shirts. It's kind of like you just did what you felt was like spoke to you in your way, and like people also kind of reciprocated that, you know.
It's weird too, because like, so like I made the t-shirt, I made two different t-shirts. One originally was just like a Dusky. It said like Dusky, like a little logo on the chest. And then the second one was like, I wanted to make something that was like me in a way. So like I had a design. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a snorkel, a campfire, and a pair of fins. Because at the time I'm like super into body surfing, going to the beach and like having fires, and then like snorkeling and all that stuff in the ocean.
Right.
And like this, like I'm still into that stuff, but like at that time I thought that was super cool to make that t-shirt. And then like now it's like I look back and I'm like, that's cool that I made that, but like I'm like my head's in a different space, like just trying to make new stuff. Like that's like it's like a past me in a way, but like it's people still bring that up as like that's still me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like
totally.
it's like you look back and like, well, I made this stuff and it's like, but like I don't feel like the same as when I was making that. Like that was cool at the time. Now it's like I don't even wear my own t-shirts anymore. I just wear like blank t-shirts now. Well,
I mean, that's an ideal situation in my opinion. I mean,
I'm not complaining. I love it. It's fine to me.
It sounds like super growth in a great way, but it's like and that's another cool thing that you can do with these with creation in general, is it is very much an expression of time and place, man. You can look back at it as like a mile marker almost. You'd be like, oh shit, do you remember the time we traveled as Dusky number 5,671?
Yeah.
And this time, you know what I mean? And you're like at Dusky 5,677 now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's cool to look back on, you know, that guy.
It's so weird too. Even sometimes I think about, mostly every day, it's like, what if I just change the name? Like it probably will change eventually in the future. Dusky, because like I like the name Dusky, but my friend was like the original one that came up with the name. Like we wanted to start like a surf fin company. It would be like Dusky Fins. And then so like cool. When it started, I was just like, I like the name. Like, can I just use it? So he helps me out like on a lot of videos I do and stuff, like either like creative writing or like the cameraman. He's like my best buddy, but I have like this feeling like I didn't come up with like the own name I have for my company. And like I'd rather like use like Castle or just my name Josh Castle or something like that.
Sure.
But I guess I think about it too much probably, or overthink about it.
I mean, you're probably going to subconsciously think about it until you're happy with the decision you make. You know what I mean? And like,
that's true.
It's okay to grow through a brand. Maybe you just become the Dusky Castle.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know.
That's true.
That you become into that. You can grow into anything.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about it, man, is like, rebrand your shit. Who gives a shit? You can do it.
Honestly, it really doesn't matter. Like people they'll watch it or like look at my stuff or not, and like the name's like whatever.
Yeah, they'll stick to you if they're digging your shit, and that's what you're looking for anyway, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. So you're also a cook, right?
Yeah. So
or is that cook, chef? I don't know.
I don't like the name chef anyway.
No.
Like, no, it's fucking pretentious and shit. Yeah, it's like, it feels like someone else that I used to be. It's like I'm looking back on someone and I'm like, oh, that guy used to be like, I don't know, he had a stick up his ass or something. I'm just a guy that cooks stuff. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But yeah, no, I was classically trained as a chef.
Okay.
Went to school for it and did all that dumb shit. I've been working in the industry for like 11 years or some shit like that.
Okay, wow.
I did like my own side gig where I kind of like private chefed for a while. Worked at some insane restaurants, some 3 Michelin star restaurants in Chicago where I've met some of my best friends that I have to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And worked at Disneyland for Club 33, like a super executive, like
I wrote
members
that down
only
in my notes.
kind of place.
I remember hearing about you.
Some people know what it is. Some people don't. Some people freak out about it because they're like, "Oh my god, Club 33 is the most insane thing ever." Oh, okay, well, I can tell you all about it. It's just a place.
I was gonna ask you if like there's any like weird stuff you've seen in there. Is it just like a restaurant for like that's super private?
It was nothing extravagantly, like you wouldn't walk in there and just be like, oh, I've never seen this before. You'd be like, oh, it's cool because I'm in Club 33 at Disney where, like, you know, Walt Disney used to hang out. But it was just like, when I was there, it was just very casual, man. It was just a dark oak room where you could order pretty mediocre fine dining food in a theme park. But it really was just the mystique that was around the restaurant that was like the big thing. And then the fact that you could see a famous person at any moment, like there was times where you were serving people that were just so famous. And I was just like, I can't believe that this person's here. You know what I mean?
Was it like an invitation only place?
Yeah. So like you would have to have a membership, or you'd have to, the process was like sign up for a waiting list, and you just wait on this waiting list until a member that already has a membership dies or can't pay for it anymore and gives it up because they're sold out, quote unquote, sold out of memberships. And then when you had the opportunity to get a membership, you'd have to pay like some insane membership fee, which was something like $50,000 or some shit.
Wow.
And that was just the membership fee for the club. That doesn't get you access to the park. That doesn't buy you the food and all of that other shit. You'd still have to like, yeah, dude, I would listen to this and I'm like, you just have to be like, it was mostly like corporate memberships, like CEOs and stuff would buy this thing in order to like bring clients in to like kind of, hey, you guys, like we're in a business meeting, come to Club 33 with us. We have this executive membership or something. You know what I mean? So like it's mostly business people. It's all business. It's just expensive business. It's like, look how fancy my feathers are, you know,
and to you, it was probably just like a job, right? It didn't feel like it wasn't like magical or anything. Like it's I'm at Disney and stuff, or is it just like it's a cooking job?
At first, it did start off that way because I could walk through the park at the beginning of the day and kind of like you can catch the magic of seeing what it is that you're creating for everybody. And that's the special part about it. So I don't want to like understate that. Like it was cool to be able to like walk around and see like, you know, kids that have never been there before smiling and having a good time. And like you're creating that magic for those people. So that is the plus side to that. But not really, man. It really was just like another cooking job. It felt that way because it's a kitchen, and you're in an environment where it's like we have deadlines. You still got to cook food that's good and hot and ready to go, and like of the quality that you're trying to meet. So like there is still a professionalism and, you know, a kitchenism that just runs through it. It's just like it was the most pirate crewy of the kitchens that I've ever worked in. If that makes it sound any cooler, like it was the Anthony Bourdain of my cooking years. Okay, I guess. You know, makes like sense, I wasn't addicted to heroin or anything, but I definitely was working with people that I was like, how did you end up here and how are we working together? Because like you spent 20 years in prison and are now like making pate, and I'm over here like 18-year-old kid, like don't even know what pate is, just like stirring shit, you know what I mean?
You were 18 at the time?
No, I'm just exaggerating that part. I think I was 22 or something like that, but not all right,
that's still pretty young. Yeah.
No, like my age, I was pretty young. That was my second cooking job after I had worked at a place down the street in Pasadena. Okay. From where I lived. So I was going to culinary school down the street from my apartment, and right across the street from there was the only place that was walking distance that was a nice restaurant from my apartment. It was called Roy's, and that was my first restaurant job. And I was, I don't know, goddamn 19 or 20, whatever. I had like held a knife.
You lived in Pasadena?
Yeah, that's where I moved to right out of high school. I went from high school to like living on my own in Pasadena.
Oh, wow.
And was going to culinary school. So I'd wake up in the morning, go to culinary school. And then I would like need a job because I was living by myself basically. Mm-hmm. And so this restaurant was across the street and I'd walk in and it was this big, like New Jersey fucking burly dude. You know what I mean? He came in and he's like, what the fuck you doing in my restaurant? You know what I mean?
Just a little white kid.
Yeah, dude, he was bigger than me, like way bigger than me. So I was just like, oh shit. I don't know, man. I'm just here because I'm going to the school across the street. You heard this shit 1,000 times because me not thinking about it, there's a billion kids walking across this restaurant, all going to culinary school. They're probably all thinking the same thing I was. Yeah. So he's like, oh, geez, all right, this fucking same shit again. And I came in and was like, yeah, man, I'm looking for a job. And he's like, okay, well, come in tomorrow. I don't have one today. And I was like, oh, all right, I guess. And so I did that every single day for like a month straight until he gave me a job.
Damn.
And
a month straight?
And pretty much, yeah. I would walk in.
Was that like a test or did he actually not have a job like to start off with?
I don't know, man. I feel like honestly he had the job available because that place was always going through people.
Yeah.
But like I said, I feel like he had heard this story a billion times already, and he was just like, I don't really want to like do this shit again with some shitty culinary student who's just going to come in here, realize his schedule is shit, his pay is shit, and what work is really like, and then leave in a week. So I'm just going to tell him I don't have a job and see how long he actually comes back for.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess I came back enough times and he gave me a shot.
That's cool. That's super cool. So it's like, it's pretty obvious that like you're super like creative, like cooking wise, and also like the art and like drawing. And is it mostly just like drawing, or like do you paint too?
I really would love to get into painting, but I'm trying to give all of my attention to one thing to kind of hone it in first before I start branching out into too many things.
Yeah.
Like the t-shirts already kind of take a lot of my attention away from graphite drawing. So if I add in painting to that, it would just be like, okay, now I'm doing 3 things that I'm not really getting better at.
And like, do you have a goal kind of like where you'd rather be doing the art and like rather than cooking, or like doing cooking, or like doing both at the same time?
Oh, fuck yeah. I'd rather be doing art all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Oh yeah. I've lived the chef life. I've done the 120-hour weeks cooking and all that other shit. So it's like, I know how to cook. I feel like I've done that adventure already, and I've kind of grown out of that person.
So that's just like a past due, kind of like the cooking.
Yeah. Thing. And it's just, I can hold on to that person because it pays the bills and it's a little bit more lucrative than being a fine artist or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many artists. You have to kind of just be like at a pinnacle to be really making it. But, you know, this is a passion that I don't want to let go of. And really the only way to like make it to being a pinnacle of anything is by putting in the time and attention that is required, you know, and just pushing farther. So it's like, if that means I got to stay up until 4 a.m. working on a drawing on a day off, or if I have to stay up after work for a couple hours to get a drawing done, like that's kind of where the goal is now. It's like, it's kind of like shifting gears. I'm in between 1 and 2, but I still got to be in 1 to get to 2. So definitely you got to just make the push.
Yeah, I feel that. And like, so I was like interested in this, like, do you have like a process or like a ritual or anything you do before like you start drawing, like staying up to like 4 a.m. say? Like, do you like get high, like eat and like play some music, or like do you like do a few things before, or how do you do it?
It kind of changes. I tend to get pretty stoned most of the time. I'm also trying to get away from that too, because I've noticed that if there's any one ritual that I do, I tend to get into the routine of thinking that that's what fuels my creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if that makes
it happens
sense
to me too.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I feel like a lot of people that are creative fall into that aspect of thinking that just like, oh, I have to do this thing in order to do this thing. That's not really the case. No, with creativity. I think really all it takes is like get your butt in the chair, get the fucking work done. Yeah, is really what fuels that. But I like to get super stoned before I draw, with that being said. And I tend to find that helps me focus a little bit on like getting that depth of detail into like shading that one little square inch, because once you've done a large shading, you got to go through and like basically spot check each piece and get each little pixel to the same color. And that's boring as fuck. Yeah. You know what I mean? That can be hella boring because you're working on the same corner and you're just like, this is dreary in one color and I'm just like falling asleep here. But like when I'm super stoned, I throw on a podcast, throw on maybe it depends also. We'll talk about like musical selections here in a second. Definitely. Yeah. But like, yeah, I'll throw on a podcast or some music, and then that helps me really like zone in onto the paper. Mm-hmm. And that's super helpful. Podcasting is like, I watch a lot of podcasts. That's honestly all I watch. Like I hardly watch TV now, but it's just like, I was talking to Colin about this yesterday before you left, but like, it's such a like different format that like, you're so like in tuned and like, you feel like you're in the room or whatever, like in the conversation with like whoever you're watching. And like, I love that so much because it's just like real people, kind of like a real connection to, whether it's like a comedy podcast, Joe Rogan, or like whatever it is, like they're
so like fascinating to me. And like, that's why I'm trying to do this too. And just like talk, I like talking to people, but I don't know, they're rad.
I mean, it makes you feel very at home. And I feel like that's kind of the key to a lot of this. And the key to success is like making people feel like they're comfortable in a space.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? And like, podcasting makes that easy because you're just having a chill conversation or whatever. Hopefully it's a chill conversation. I've heard some podcasts that don't sound very chill, and that makes me kind of nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, I got to change this.
I don't like the podcasts that are like, so like such a production, like almost like a TV show.
Yeah.
Like do you have, like, what are some of your top podcasts, or at least ones you've been recently watching?
I'm 100% addicted to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Okay. I didn't even know he had a podcast, Duncan Trussell.
It's the greatest podcast of all time, dude.
It's on YouTube?
Like it's not on YouTube because I don't think he does any filming, but he has it on, I know he definitely has it on iTunes and all of that stuff, like like audio stuff.
I'm gonna write that down.
I get it just on Apple. I don't know what it is, whatever the podcasting for Apple.
Oh yeah, it's just Apple Podcast.
Yeah, Apple Podcast. Is that what it is? That sounds about right. iPodcast, something like that. Yeah. But I listen to him basically all the time. Like if I'm listening to a podcast, it's Duncan Trussell. I found him through Joe Rogan. So I started with Joe Rogan, and then I saw Duncan Trussell for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, I found a human being that feels more like me than I've ever seen before. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I think I saw him on Joe Rogan, and the start of it was like, they're both in spacesuits.
Was it the one from a few years ago?
Yeah, it was several years ago, and the room is just like so smoky that you can't even see them at first. And then all of a sudden it kind of clears out. And then there's these two spacemen talking about drugs and shit. And I'm like, my people are here.
Yeah, man, that was a good one. Every time I see a Joe Rogan and they're wearing spacesuits, I know it's going to be a good episode, to be honest.
Oh, fuck yeah.
they're going to be high as shit.
So high.
Yeah.
They are so high, and the conversation is so awesome. But yeah, man, Duncan Trussell Family Hour is like the greatest podcast of all time because he talks about spirituality and some psychedelic drug use and all kinds of shit. He gets deeper into stuff. Like it's not just about those things. But he has like, I don't know, some of the most interesting and like lovable guests of all time. And it's always super chill. And I learn something every time I listen to it. So
I'll check that out. Definitely. Cause I'm all into like listening to like the spiritual stuff and also like drug stories and stuff like that. Not that I do like any of that stuff. I like the idea, and like I eventually will get to that point, but just like listening to people talk about it, especially like Duncan Trussell, like it's pretty like fascinating.
Yeah. And especially with like, I kind of try to preach this as much as I can with anybody that gets interested in psychedelic drug use, is trying to is creating that sense of community and use of it as a medicine and not as a way to get like fucked up and party and shit. Like we're not here to like take as much acid as we can or do as much mushrooms as we can or like smoke as much DMT as we can. Like we're here to like, you know, figure this whole fucking thing out and like also understand ourselves a little bit better. And with proper use of those medicines and techniques, it can be super beneficial. And the number one rule that I tend to tell people is to like come in from a good perspective, just be open-minded and ready for what the medicine has to say and offer to you. And if you're not ready to be in that place, then you're not ready to take the medicine.
So like your art's definitely then like inspired a lot from like psychedelics, I would assume, right?
Yeah, totally. My favorite artist is Miles Johnston, and his viewpoint of the world is a surrealist kind of viewpoint. I guess you could say that it's psychedelic or that it stems from use of psychedelics. I can only speak for myself in saying that like my perspective has been enhanced because of psychedelics, and I can kind of understand the art from a better place because of that. But its intended purpose is not to be, oh, this comes from a place of drug use or psychedelic use. It kind of is just supposed to speak to the mind of like perspective enhancing, I guess, if that makes sense. So like,
definitely.
Trying to connect the two to like, oh, this is psychedelic and drug use is kind of not really where we want to come, where I especially want to come from it. You're like, oh, did he take drugs? Probably, but that's not the intended purpose for it, you know?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, because I wrote down, I was on the Instagram last night looking at Miles Johnson and also Alex Gray.
Yeah.
And like I was like comparing your work from Alex Gray to like, or Alex Gray's and your work, and like it's just so like I see like the inspiration definitely from him. Like I don't even, what kind of like genre like of art is that? Just like, is there like a specific like type of art that's called?
Yeah, so Miles Johnson would definitely fall under surrealism.
Okay.
Surrealism from that I would believe. And then Alex Gray is definitely psychedelic. Like you just type in psychedelic art and Alex Gray pops up, like he's like the first one. And yeah, dude, Alex Gray was the first artist that I really discovered kind of out of my, I guess, reblossoming of art, because I rediscovered art in a later time in my life. Like I was really into it as a young person, got into cooking, and then rediscovered art again. And that's all because of Alex Gray and Tool and a blossoming of like new things in my life, because I went through a pretty rough patch there for a minute and needed some help and found some inspiration in this. And Alex Gray definitely has some major impact in getting me started in picking up pencils. You know, whether or not his artwork shines through more and more as I develop as an artist, we'll see. But like, I can definitely credit him to like somehow getting me to pick up, you know, a pen and draw something again. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So I was doing some research and I saw that he did. You probably know more than I do about this, but like, he did at least 2 Tool albums, right? Like the cover art.
He has done Tool art for 3 albums now.
3 albums?
Yeah, he did Fear Inoculum, 10,000 Days, and Lateralis. Okay. Yeah.
And would you say Tool is like one of your favorite bands? Probably.
Most definitely.
They're definitely a band I need to get like more into. Like I've been talking to Colin again about it and stuff. Like he loves Tool and he always talks about them and how you love them too. But I've never like got into them really. They're just like back there, but their artwork's crazy, and I'll definitely have to check their music out. It seems pretty sick.
It took me a long time to get into Tool. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I have to like, I think it's cool when people tell me that they're not really into Tool yet. Yeah. And I think a lot of Tool fans are. If they're really Tool fans, they're kind of excited when they find someone who hasn't been into Tool yet. Yeah. Because they're like, let me show you why.
Feel the same with the Beatles, dude, honestly.
Yeah, dude, exactly. So like, it also takes time. Like it takes time for the message to seep in, because I feel like once again, you have to be like in the mind space of being like, oh wait, I kind of understand what he's talking about now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, that's super important when you listen to Tool, because Maynard and Adam and Justin and Danny, they just know how to speak to people in a way that's like vague enough for you to interpret it the way you need to in order to like make sense to you, but straightforward enough to where it's like, if you need a good fucking rock song, this is a great fucking rock song right here. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can just jam out to Tool, or if you really need some introspection time, you can throw it on and be like, oh, wow, I didn't know I could think about it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the power to Tool, man. And that's what's so fucking sick about it.
I'm going to write some like either song recommendations you have or album recommendations by Tool that I should like
all
kind
of get into and all songs by Tool.
should I just go like in order?
Specific, but yeah, anything you listen to is probably not the wrong thing to listen to. Okay. I tell people like, where are you at in your life, man? What's happening in Dusky's life? Like, where does he need to go? And then Tool, we can add in, because like if you're kind of in a place of like, man, I kind of don't like where life is right now, and I kind of just want to just pick myself up and get going again, or like, no, shit's going super well and I just want to keep riding this wave. Like there's all of that. And I feel like if you hit Tool in the right spot at the right time, that's the wave you were supposed to catch. And you're like, oh, I fucking get it. You know what I mean? So like, where are you at?
Are you asking me where I'm at?
Yeah. Where are you? And I can recommend some songs for you.
It's been weird recently. This is like my first time not working for about 2 months now. I quit my job. I've just been working like seasonal or like temporary jobs. And like it was, at first it was like okay. I had a lot of money saved up and stuff when I quit. And like, I was like, oh, I'll just find like another job doing like cannabis work still, like in a dispensary pretty much.
Mhm.
And then like I went through like a pretty hard patch just like for a few weeks of like, it was like depression, I would say, like probably the first time I've had like real depression. And
Yeah.
now it's like at a point where I'm like a lot better. Like I'm like doing really well, but like it's just like the financial part that like I'm like not the best on.
Mhm.
And so like that's been like pretty like stressful. But now I just started a new job and I start Friday, so that was a huge thing. And then like everything else, like with friends and stuff, has like been great. Just like going out, taking photos, doing videos.
Tight.
Like I'm trying to find like more motivation to like do like this type of stuff. Like I'm like when someone says yes, I'm always like excited, no matter who it is. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I got to talk to someone new and like make a new video. And if I don't post it, then like I just don't.
Yeah.
But it's hard finding the motivation to like do a lot of like creative work. Like I have so many ideas I just write down all day, but I just don't do a lot of them.
Listen to Lateralis first then. That's usually the first go-to for most recommendations, but like, man, you're kind of like in a new place, starting a new thing, getting ready to start new ideas. And that's that whole album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That whole album is about, being in the moment, learning to go forward, becoming a better person, moving into the new self and stepping forward and learning to know what that means exactly. It's not just like pumping you up, like, yo, take the step. It's like, here's a roadblock. Here's some things you're going to encounter probably on your way to stepping into this new person. But like, if you can follow some of your steps, you can make it. And here's some motivation, and here's how we did it, or here's how, here's how I did it. If you're looking at it from a Maynard perspective, I think of it as a tools perspective. So I say, this is how we did it.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy how like music can do that to people? Like I always think about music because I would say music's probably my favorite thing ever. And like, it's just crazy how it just not messes. Well, it can mess, but like, just like your emotion wise and stuff, like how it makes you feel. And like, it's just like sound that like someone's making, but like, it just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
I guess you through like hard times or like whatever is going on.
I've done a lot of thinking about this because I've been getting into trance and EDM and a lot of that recently. I've liked it my whole life. I never really understood why. Excuse me. But I've been doing a lot of thinking about why does this music speak to me so well? And I've started to realize that like sound is kind of, or vibration more specifically, not necessarily sound. We interpret it as sound in this realm of reality.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way that we can interpret it. But vibration in general is kind of like universal language, like not just in this universe, but every universe that can be thought of, that transcends time, space, and all that other shit. You go from here to a place where lizard people are a thing. Telepathically, you're not speaking in lizard tongue. You're kind of like speaking through vibration. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of discovered that in a DMT trip once where I was like flying through space time and I'm kind of encountering all of these people and these creatures, these entities, and we can understand each other, but we're not speaking.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So like, I feel like that's the same way that we kind of interpret music. Like we can feel each other. We can understand each other, but we're not speaking. We're just kind of we're having this conversation back and forth through vibration and sound. And it's just like, oh, wow, I can feel your energy and I can understand what you're saying to me because you're literally telling me, like you're tapping into the most primal source of communication.
It's so awesome. It's
like
cool,
that's
like
personal experience. I don't know if that's true or not. Some scientists need to get on that shit, but that's what I think.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. Like, it's just, I love like, fuck, man, I can't even explain it. Like, just like relating the songs, just like listening like to certain sounds and stuff. Like it's just like art. It's just another art form too, which is great.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like you're gonna really love Maynard's way to speak to people. I feel like with getting back to Tool, if you're really into like the lyrical aspect, like Maynard is I call him Reverend Maynard just for fun. One, because they have a song called Disgustipated on Undertow, where he does like this little reverendy thing where he talks about the cry of the carrots, and it's kind of like an artsy like music piece, like a weird little stint that they put in there.
Yeah,
that's kind of like a nod to like everything having a soul and a consciousness, and just kind of keeping that in mind in real life. And he calls himself Reverend Maynard, and I thought that shit was hilarious.
Yeah,
because
awesome.
That's kind of how my friends and I feel when we show up at a Tool show. We're kind of like showing up for church, and we're here to like listen to the gospel, and we're going to go home and be better people now. So like
that's sick. How many Tool shows have you been to?
Relatively low amount. I think it's at 6 at this point, or 7.
That's like a fair amount, I would say.
It's fair. But I've seen Slipknot 14 times or something stupid like that. Or something. Yeah. So like I'm trying to get Tool up there, because once again I discovered them a little later in life for some reason, but that's okay.
That's all right.
I went to before COVID hit, I think my buddies and I went to 4 or 5 shows. Like we kind of were traveling with Tool, and we had a couple more tickets to go, and then COVID hit, but tour's back on, and I've got tickets to at least 2 now at this point. So yeah.
What city do they go to in Washington usually?
They're only going to be in Tacoma.
How far is that from you?
It's about an hour drive. So
it's not too bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll get a hotel near the Tacoma Dome, take a bunch of psychedelics, and see Reverend Maynard and Reverend Adam. Yeah. And we're going to have a time. It'll be a good time.
What are like some other artists you've been listening to, or like bands recently?
Mac Miller is a big one for me.
Mac Miller,
I really like Mac Miller.
Definitely.
He's kind of like Maynard to me, where he just kind of spits truth.
Yeah.
Or he kind of just says things that are like, man, these are just things that I know are true in my life.
Yeah.
And somehow those things connect. And I feel like that's pretty important. And it connects with a lot of people. And that's really important. So I've been listening to him a lot. Who else have I been listening to?
I feel like
Above and Beyond.
You're like a fan of like a lot of music, aren't you? Just like a lot of genres and stuff.
I tend to really enjoy everything, mostly because once again, it's an art form.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to walk into a gallery and just be like, this painting is shit. You know what I mean? Like, no, like there's only one genre of music that I shit on, and that's country music. That music sucks.
I agree. Like at least for the new country, I listen to like 30s to like maybe 80s country, but the new stuff I cannot stand.
Yeah, if it's just about pickup trucks and whatever else it is, I don't really care.
Yeah, but like
there's a couple obvious like things that are obvious artists that stand out in the country genre, but like for the most part, pop country. I guess it's pop country or alternative country. I don't know what they would call it these days, but
I call it pop country. Definitely country, is. Yeah, it doesn't sound like country anymore. It's either like it's just a pop song, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
it's terrible.
Sometimes it sounds like rap almost.
It's garbage. Yeah. It's just like it seems like it seems like the most sad attempt to create an art form ever. It's like, have you seen my stick figure drawing today? Oh man, way to go. Whatever Keith Richards or whatever the most popular one is.
Keith Richards?
I don't know. Whoever is a country artist.
That guy's in the Rolling Stones.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like Stones.
Zach Brown.
Zach Brown?
He's like a new singer. Newish. Oh. I don't know.
Zach Brown. That sounds okay. Yeah, we'll go with Zach Brown. Sounds like a good country name.
Yeah. I feel like country music's so like easy to shit on, to be honest. It's all preference, but like not that I judge, but like that preference is like not the best preference. To be honest.
Man.
It's like it's a certain type of person that likes that music. Not that it's bad, but just like
I'm a very compassionate and open person, and I still can't get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll like the people. The people are all super sweet, but I cannot listen to your music. I really can't. I'll put my headphones in and I'll stand there with y'all, but that's it.
Have you ever like thought about, or even done before maybe, but like made someone's album cover? Like
I've thought about it, but I work so slow and I'm so new into my process that it seems unfair to put to put me in charge of something like that yet.
yeah,
But I've definitely got it in my mind of like I want to do that someday
I
for
think that'd
sure.
be
Like,
sick as fuck. That's so
dude,
cool.
I'd be so stoked. Like my number one like all time like fantasy goal is like to have a Tool poster someday.
Dude,
That would be
be
fucking
crazy.
cool. Yeah, dude, I would
That'd be
just
so. That'd be sick.
Man, I'll put it on the chalkboard and just keep working super hard, and maybe one day it'll happen. I'll just get that phone call or that email that's like, "Hey, Adam Jones saw your artwork in this gallery and wants to have you do a poster." And I'm like, that would be sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm not yet. I'm kind of just moving at my own pace until like it comes along. Like I've thought about it, and if someone asked me and it felt like it was in my range of ability, I would definitely shoot for it.
That's rad. That's so cool. Do you sell your art too, or just the shirts right now?
I do sell prints of my art, but they're not super popular because I mean they're expensive and they're pieces of paper, man. Like I understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know people are more into shirts and that's why I brought the shirts into it. But yeah, like
you have
I
stickers
definitely
too, right?
Yeah, I do stickers also. I kind of throw them into like packages with stuff. So like I kind of order the stickers, and if someone gets a shirt, I'll throw in like 4 or 5 stickers.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? So I have them, but I tend not to sell them. I usually just give them away.
That's so dope.
It's a pretty terrible business model for stickers, but I think it's more fun.
No, I did the same thing. Like I would just send like the shirts, even maybe sometimes like an extra shirt, stickers, and like a little note just saying thank you for everything, like buying and supporting me and stuff like that.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the little handwritten notes are super nice. I try to do a little handwritten note with like a quote or something, like a Ram Dass thing or a Maynard thing or something that speaks to me at the moment.
Have you shipped any like shirts like far out, like out of the country at all yet, or not? Not yet.
No, not yet. My reach is pretty small, but like once again, like I said, it's like kind of the process of it.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want the art to grow naturally. So if this is where I am with it, then it kind of gives me a vibe of like, okay, well, this is where it is, and this is where I need to go with it in order for it to reach more people. So like, it's kind of like a motivator to push myself in a direction that maybe like makes me grow more as an artist. But like right now it's just a lot of local stuff, and like I get a lot of word of mouth and things like that, and that's pretty fucking dope. But yeah, it's super local right now, and yeah, man, that's fucking cool. I'm just glad that people are enjoying them at all. You know what I mean?
Do you guys ever have like street markets or like farmers markets down where you are?
Probably. Yeah, I know we definitely do up the street here. I've never looked into them.
Because you could like definitely just have like little stands selling like shirts and like stickers there. That'd be sick as fuck.
Probably. I definitely want to move into doing my shirts a different way. Like the vinyl's pretty cool and everything, but it's a hell of a fucking process. And it's not as like permanent of a medium as like say screen printing is.
Yeah, definitely. Screen printing is definitely the way to go.
It's way better than vinyl.
Yeah.
And the only reason that I'm in the vinyl step right now is because it's step 1 and I'm trying to get into step 2 eventually. But yeah, dude, like I think like farmers markets would be in like step 2 process of where I'm like super happy with the quality of my shirts. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about like some fucking piece of it falling apart before, like, you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm glad that it's like as small as it is because I'm kind of dealing with those problems of like, oh, okay, the quality of the shirt is kind of falling apart. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I fix that? And, you know, I'm dealing with like what would be an insanely bad problem if I was in a large scale production and then all of a sudden I had like 50 shirts that were just like all of a sudden falling apart. I'm like, oh, fuck, what do we do now?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean? But
like preparing yourself to get to that point.
Yeah.
When it's like all like set in stone, you know, the little things about the shirts and like
totally. Yeah, I can deal with 1 shirt or 2 shirts that are not quite the greatest, but if I'm like trying to overstep my reach before I'm ready for it, I can see a lot of bad problems being run into.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, like I feel like once I get into screen printing, that'll kind of be where that next level of step will definitely be natural and take its course for sure.
Do you have like a local screen printer at all?
I don't think
Or
we
would you
have
do
one
it like in
everett.
your house? Like, would you
I
like
would
buy
try
like
to
the
do it.
setup?
I would try to do it myself because I'm kind of one of those people that I like to be a part of the whole process.
Yeah.
And it would probably go kind of similarly to what I have set up now. If I decide to, once I decide to go that way, I'll do a limited amount of like handmade shirts. So like the model that I have right now is I'll make 10 shirts or however many that I feel like I can create with the amount of product that I have and how difficult the shirt is to make. And then anything beyond that, I can outsource to have so that people can still have shirts. So once I get to that point, it would be like, okay, I'm screen printing 10 custom shirts. They'll all have slight variations or slight color differences, or like, I don't know, I'll tie dye them differently. And then anything beyond that, I can just have them through my website via print on demand or something like that, is kind of where I see the process going naturally.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vision so far, is to get to that place.
And I'm sure it's like through this journey you're going to, like, it's going to definitely change of like things you want to make and stuff. And like,
yeah,
it's like interesting, like the process of things. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I've put myself into kind of an interesting situation where I've given myself the goal of releasing a shirt every month.
Okay.
So I have to come up with a piece of art and the design and all of that within a month's time frame, or like, so that I have something to release on time.
Yeah.
And who knows how long I'll keep that up for, but like, I think we're getting to like 6 months or 7 months at this point. And like, it's been an insane hurdle to like do that. You know what I mean? And the discipline necessary to kind of come up with it has been fun. Like, I've had to really push myself a little bit. So, and I can see where that'll get tiring eventually. Like, I mean, I'm only one person. So if I'm doing that plus all of the other things that I want to do, eventually I'm going to have to like not be the only one doing things. Mm-hmm. So like limiting my amount of things that I touch myself would probably be smart. So like building into that model, like X amount of customs or like X amount of things I do myself. The rest we're going to pass on might just be a preservation method of like, okay, just to keep that schedule going, I kind of need to like limit myself a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. What else you been up to besides like working in like the art? Like any new hobbies or shows you watch, or like just
lots of music? I'm trying to get out and going to shows again, because though Tool is kind of like the main mass, it's like the main service. I feel like concerts are just where I go to get straight anyway. You know what I mean? Where I go to work on myself. So I go to a lot of concerts, as many as I can. And I've been getting back into that now that COVID is kind of like, I don't know, not necessarily retreating, but making it more available for us to go out and do stuff now.
Yeah.
And that's been positive and super great. But most of the time it's just work. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the main goal right now is get this art successful in any way that feels, I don't know, right? Like, successful just means to me that I'm creating and making something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I said, like the last year of me taking this time off from drawing has not felt good. Like, even though I've not really done any drawing, it's not felt good. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing my purpose.
Yeah, or fulfilling my purpose too recently.
Yeah.
It's like you like make stuff, like you look at it and you're like, hey, this is like still shit. At least for me, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like doing this, but like I still enjoy it, like in the moment while I'm making it.
Well, and it has to start somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And the only thing that makes the art better, the process better, is by doing it. And like, that's the hardest thing to like get into people's head, especially with drawing. And specifically, they're like, but I don't have the talent, or like, I don't have the natural blah, or the natural this, or the blah. Stop talking, because you're wrong already.
Excuse
you have the ability to do this. You just have to sit down and fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like when I have a little bit of natural talent, sorry, I'm going to try to readjust you because you can only see my floating head somehow. But that's one of the things that like I listened to Alex and Allison Gray last night on Duncan Trussell's podcast, and one of their main things was like, no, anybody can draw or create. The thing is, the reason that Allison and Alex Gray are such amazing artists is because they sit down and they draw every fucking day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a craft. It's not just like one of these things that you just naturally wake up and like, I know how to do all of these fucking amazing art things.
Yeah. I was telling Colin that too. I know I keep bringing up Colin, he's like the middleman for us, but
yeah,
I was like, it's insane, like how John like draws and stuff. And I'm just like showing him like how the fuck like this is so like detailed and stuff. Is like I was telling him like I can never do this. I could never draw like this. And, like, but like I still could draw. It's just a different type of art, I guess. Not that it's bad or good, but just like it's just insane what you do. Like I know I could never do that. Not like, but I could draw other stuff though. That's the thing.
No, but you could. You absolutely could do what I do. 100%.
I think it's more if I don't want to, though. It's like as much as like I appreciate and like it, it's just like I don't think I put so much time into like doing like the specifics of like what you do.
Well, it's not your call.
Yeah,
it's not the thing that draws you to it. So like you're gonna find that in your form. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna find it in your podcasting or whatever it is that you find it in. Like you'll find that same drive, that same mentality for your art form.
Yeah.
And that's the process. Like that's the fucking key right there. That's the key that unlocks all the doors. It's just like, it's not that I'm naturally talented. There may be some of that. Yeah, sure. There is some natural talent involved in some things that people do. I have my own theory about that also. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
If you want. But it's really all about just putting in the time and finding out. And like, you know, like it's the
motivation and putting like, once you get that motivation is putting like the time into it.
Yeah. So like the first time that I drew something as I rediscovered drawing again, I had just started smoking weed for the first time. So I discovered marijuana super late in my life also. And I just got super fucking stoned one day, like so obliteratedly high that I just didn't even know where I really was. And I sat down with a pen and a piece of lined paper and I put on some Tool and I just started fucking, and it was a hand that was good, but it was just a shitty fucking hand. And in that I found what I was looking for, not necessarily in the drawing, but in the process of it. It's like, holy shit,
dude,
something magical happened here.
I can relate to that. I'll tell you after. You know, like you tell me this.
Yeah, I related to whatever that process was, and it made me feel very good about everything. You know what I mean? Like I got some kind of something extra out of it. And so I just kept chasing that. And as I kept chasing it, I started to realize that like, oh, okay, well, if I pay a little bit more attention to this or a little bit more attention to this, it kind of crisps this up or it kind of makes this a little bit better. And I can express my vision a little more in a little bit more accurately of a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, that's kind of the idea, is that I'm not necessarily doing it and like, it's just coming naturally. It's like, I know I'm developing this over a long period of time, over many, many practices. Like my first drawing compared to now, they're completely different.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even look like the same person drew them. And that's just because you like let the process go naturally and you just kind of pay attention to it. And that's another thing that I've tried to be a little bit more like caring of, is like my mindfulness, or like my attention to what it is that I'm doing. So if I'm looking at something, I'm giving it full attention. I'm not trying to be distracted by X, Y, and Z. Like I'm going to just understand what this thing is all about right now. You know what I mean? And I try to do that with everything that I can, but art specifically, because that's kind of where I'm motivated.
Do you show like a lot of people like your art before you finish a piece, just asking for like advice on like certain things? Like, do you have like certain people you like to ask like for advice or like what they think about it?
Totally. I have a couple of people that I show my art to. And if people ask and they're like, oh, well, what are you working on? I tend to like be pretty open about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the part of the process of being an artist too, is like, it's not art if you have it in your head, you know, it's not art if it's sitting on your desk.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be part of creation to be art.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? It has to be in the public. It has to be out in order to be expressive as an art form. So like even the process is part of that. And in order to bring something into creation, it has to be real. So like if it's just, you know, if it's just a piece of paper on your desk, then it's not really real, or it doesn't feel real yet. So yeah, I do share some of my process. I don't necessarily take like advice necessarily.
Yeah,
like,
I guess that wasn't the best word to use. Advice.
No, I mean, it's
like,
a great way to, it is what, you know, most people tend to ask for when they show people their work.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like, it's on the artist's mindset to realize that it's not necessarily advice that you're looking for. It's really just kind of like the ego asking, how is this?
Yeah.
You know, do you like it? I mean, does it matter? But really the thing that I'll ask for is like, does this thing look proper? Is my perspective right? Does it look awkward? Like, cause a lot of the times I'm playing with shapes and shading and like natural forms that I don't really know how I'm drawing yet. So I'm kind of like, hey, does this thing look like what I'm trying to portray it as?
Yeah.
And I'll get a yes or a no. And if it's a yes, and I'm like, sick, I got it. And if it's a no, then I'm like, I'm going to probably rework it then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not about like, I'm not really trying to get anybody else's perspective on it. I'm really just trying to express what I'm trying to say and do it in the best way that I can.
Same.
You know, so like, I'm not really asking for advice. I'm just saying, hey, does this sound like what I'm trying to say? You know what I mean? Like it's like an editor of a book going to, I'm sorry, like it's like an author of a book going to an editor, like, hey, does this sentence sound right?
That's true.
Yes or no? You know, that's really all I ask for is like, does it sound right? Yes, no? Okay, cool.
I was like going based off what you were saying earlier about like the hand you were drawing. Like for like the most recent logo I've had for Dusky, it's like the picture I have for my profile picture on Instagram. It's like the little guy, his like glasses, like the hair. That was from like one night. This is like a few months ago. I was at trivia with my friends and I had like my little sketchbook because I was super into like graphic design for like the longest time. Wanted to learn like Photoshop and Illustrator like really bad. And I was doing like some like online classes and stuff for that. But I drew like this little guy in my notebook at the bar. I came home and like at that time it's like I still don't know what Dusky really is. I think I want to focus on the podcasting like in videos and stuff like that. But at that time I was just like super conflicted and stuff. Not that it still doesn't matter what it is. It's like just me expressing myself in a way.
Sure.
But then so like the process from like drawing that logo, then I vectorized it in Illustrator. And it's probably like the shittiest logo I've ever made, but like I'm like the happiest with what I've made. Rather than like I've paid so many people to like make logos for me, and I've made more professional looking logos too in the past. Just like not happy with it, and then I made that, and then that stemmed to started for some reason doing podcasts. I never thought about making podcasts until recently. I'm like, I love podcasts. Why not just start one? Right. So that's super cool. Like just like one thing that just changed everything.
Yeah,
like it's
that's
just
really
like
all
incredible.
that it takes. It's really all that it takes because you're just kind of like tapping into where it is. You're like, oh shit, I've seen my creation source.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's what people talk about when they're like, oh well, when you find what it is you're looking for, you just kind of know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then it's just finding a way to make that a reality because there's going to be 1,000 hurdles in your place that you know you just kind of have to knock over somehow. And just do it, you know?
So, yeah.
So
now
that's the hardest part about it. It's the hardest part about it is like resetting all of your presets to go that direction. You know?
Yeah.
It's taking an hour.
Fuck, I feel pretty good right now. Dude, I'm so excited. I got like, so like I have this like audio recorder I use for like most of my videos, just like this like $30 one I got off Amazon. And I just bought like a legit one off eBay yesterday. Like, so I'm going to get like 2 microphones and I'm just going to like do random podcasts, like in grocery stores, like at a Whole Foods, like in the restaurant section, or just like an IKEA, like in one of those rooms and stuff. Like, I'm so excited.
Nice.
The shit's fun. I just like talking to people.
Yeah.
It's like, this is our first time ever talking. I think like,
yeah,
at least
super
like
chill,
this.
super easy. Yeah, man. It's easy to just like, I mean, I don't know, if you're open and able to just like be somewhat interesting as a person, I feel like you're able to like definitely nail those things. Like it's coming super naturally from you. So like,
yeah,
it's rad to hear that you're going to keep moving forward with this. So
yeah, that's what I want to do, I guess.
Fuck yeah, man.
At least cool. at this point.
Things that come naturally to people. I think we kind of like made a note of that. Like what feels like people what comes naturally, people like, oh, well, you're naturally good as an artist. Like, that's why this is easy for you. I had this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to get more perspectives on it, but that I'm very much a believer in like, not reincarnation, kind of, I guess, but that we've lived multiple lives and that we'll be living another life after this one, unless we've achieved the main goal of what it is we're here to achieve.
Yeah.
And we can get into more of that because I'm always into talking about spirituality and shit. But
yeah, it's always when someone tells me like I felt like I've met you in a past life, that almost gives me like chills, like a good type of chills. I'm like, dang, that's like so crazy. Cause like,
yeah,
I like to think that is true. Cause like, it's just like, why not think about that?
It feels very true. And it feels very, it feels like it could be, because we're all just energies, like vibrations of, of things coming together. So why not have run into this energy before? I feel like people like, oh man, we're going to get off topic because we're going to get into so many good topics here.
There's no topic here. We're just talking.
But like there's people that you definitely can vibe with and people that you can't vibe with.
Yeah.
And from some of the psychedelic experiences that I've had, I feel like we're kind of in like this cosmic soup almost. And when I say that, it's like we're kind of like, if you think about us in a galaxy on a planet, we're just a dot in this fucking soup of things, right? So that's your vibrational energy. Like you're right there in this network of vibrational energies, right?
Yeah.
And the people that you vibe with are all of the other little energies right around your little bundle. And people that you don't vibe with are kind of just farther away from you in that bundle.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Crazy.
I think about it like that. If that kind of like helps me wrap my brain around why like I can feel this person's vibration and why it's not the same or whatever, you know what I mean? But
dude, so many people like, there are a lot of people that think about this stuff. Like, I feel like more people probably don't think about this type of stuff. And it's always like stoners and stuff that like start talking about like life things and like all this shit. But like it's like so fascinating because like it's just like you should think about this stuff, I think, rather than just like being stuck in life and just like doing like just like whatever you grew up in, like in your family and stuff, and not like thinking like outside, like I don't know, just I don't know what I'm saying right now.
No, that's okay. I've had the same thoughts, like just to go back to where I was going, because I know I'm going to get off topic again, but it kind of falls into the same thing of like, I don't think anybody else would have thought that like maybe the things that we're naturally predisposed to be good at have just been skills that we've been practicing over lifetimes that we just have to relearn every time we come through a vagina again. You know what I mean? So like I've had this term that I'm kind of start using again that I've developed over the last couple of days called the reset of preset. So like we're kind of like these avatars that we come into this video game and we have all of these organic presets that we're given when we're born. And we also have all of these mental presets that we're given when we're born. And then we have to go through this video game of life. And as we're going through, we're updating our presets and we get to little checkpoints, and certain things are very like, oh, this is a reset point. Yeah. Time to reset. But like the biggest reset that you get is being born into the universe first. that doesn't mean that you haven't had saved chapters before, if that makes sense. So like all of that saved data beforehand is just being downloaded into this new avatar at the beginning. So like, for example, maybe you have not necessarily podcasted in previous lives because this is a fairly new technology, but maybe you were an interviewer before this, conceivably, and like you were born in the mid 90s.
1998.
Okay, so yeah, you probably would have been someone who died before pre 98.
Damn.
Right? Because you couldn't be an energy that's living on this planet.
Yeah.
I mean, and conceiving something in reality in two different people, hopefully, that would be a fucked up situation, I would imagine. But pre 98, you were probably an interviewer. Pre whatever that person was born, probably 60s or 50s, they were probably like, I don't know, probably still an interviewer, or then like a scribesman, or like you keep going back and you just kind of like understand that maybe you have just been doing this job over and over and over and over again. So that's why you're naturally predisposed to do it in this lifetime.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Sense, definitely.
So like maybe I haven't necessarily been, so I've been an artist in many different lifetimes. How many times have I discovered it in every lifetime? I don't know. But I'm predisposed to go back to that because that's just where most of my lifetimes have led me. And so that you kind of build off each lifetime to get to the next one. And you're kind of like moving towards the ultimate goal, really.
Yeah.
And every time you find where you're meant to be, you're just like, oh, it's like a fast track. You're in like the stream river that's like the fastest. You know what I'm saying? It's like moving in the direction that you want to go the quickest. You're like, oh yeah. And that's just you tapping into like all of the things that have like led you to like the right places in the future or in the past. You know what I'm saying?
It definitely.
That makes sense.
It's like, I like to say like life is weird, but like, then I think about it like deeper and deeper, and like life is just like life. Like there's like really nothing that's weird, because like it's just like all part of like living, whatever's going on, whether it's bad or good, like in the world. It's just like insane to me. Like, I'm sure like you definitely have like thought of like death and stuff like that. Like, have you, like, I would say recently I've like accepted death in a way. Like obviously we know we're going to die and stuff, but I don't think a lot of people like to think about it, that they're going to die someday.
Yeah.
Like just
it's the most freeing way to live.
Yeah, it is, honestly. Like, I don't know.
I mean, accepting that you're going to die someday, one, frees you up to like living in this moment, because you realize how special it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You realize that like, oh shit, I could just walk out to my car and some drunk dude could literally just walk up and shoot me in the fucking face. Yeah. I live in Seattle.
It's crazy.
Or who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Like, so every day is a beautiful thing, is a beautiful moment right now. And why not be filling it with joy and happiness and love, and like filling that with like, you know what I mean? As much as you can. There obviously is going to be times when you have to like, you're oscillating. There's one of my favorite like people to listen to. Sometimes when I'm like in a really bad place, says that there's no good people and bad people. We're just oscillating between the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's
like a specific person you listen to?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a couple of different people that I listen to. This one specifically is Sadhguru.
Okay.
Is the one who says that.
You ever listen to Alan Watts?
I'm sorry?
Do you ever listen to Alan Watts?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. Alan Watts is the shit. There's a lot of good people to listen to. One of my favorite quotes about death is actually from somebody by the name of Ram Dass, and he says that dying is kind of like taking off a shoe that's on too tight. And I feel that to my core. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, it would be relieving in a way to know that this is going to end someday. And that's not necessarily to be like pessimistic about it.
Yeah.
It's like something to look forward to. It's like, oh man, you know what? Like, this is kind of beautiful in a way. It's kind of hurts because we're living an organic life. Like, I feel like that's just part of it. is like you're an organic being that's here to feel all of the feelings of what it is to live and experience. And that's part of why we're here in the first place. But like once you die and you go through the Bardo loop and all of that jazz, and you figure out what all of that cosmic shit's about, you come back and you experience it again. And you just kind of like, it's so
insane.
It's like a multitude of things that are all happening at one time that you're just like, is it mean something? Does it not mean something? I mean, I think it is cool to think that it means something.
I think so. Yeah.
But it's pretty insane to think about that process. Yeah.
That's another good thing to do. It's like listening to music is like one thing, like getting like, it's like thinking about shit, but just like thinking in general, just like by yourself, it's like such a like peaceful like thing to do, whether you're high or not high. I think so. Like I just love thinking. Total dreamer. Love dreaming.
Well, I mean, I've always believed that some of the smartest people daydream, because that's the most, I mean, it's the most insane form of creation is to like daydream. You're like ultimately running billions of tests in your mind almost.
Yeah.
And like, I can't remember what Albert Einstein called them, thought experiments, I think is what he called them. And it's very easy to think that that's just Albert Einstein daydreaming about what the possibilities of his theories are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he had to obviously have thought this thing in his brain. He can't just come up with the theory of relativity out of nowhere. He's not just like randomly writing numbers and then he's like stumbles upon it. You know what I mean? He has to run all of these thought experiments, these tests in his brain. Like, is it even like theoretically possible? Can I even think it into creation first? And if I can't even think it into creation, then it's not even possible in reality in the first place. So why even try and make the numbers work?
That's insane. So everything's from like the mind. It's like insane.
Yeah. So like that's even a possibility. I mean, that's something that scientists have literally started to show. We'll have to find the data somewhere to like prove this, but because I can't remember the exact data and where it all comes from, but scientists are able to prove now that things come into creation when you see it into existence. So if you're able to literally think it into being, that's you seeing reality essentially. So if you're the idea is essentially that like you run this experiment that if you expect to see a particle, you'll see a particle.
Yeah.
So if you expect to see something there, you'll see something there. If you don't, you won't. So like the theory is that you kind of create reality as you see it, essentially. So like if you can think it into creation, you can see it into creation. It will be creation essentially, because you can make the particles by thinking them into creation essentially. And that's kind of a super hippie thought, but
no, I totally agree with that. Like, I think we think pretty like similar to each other. I don't know. I have nothing to say now. Like, fuck, you're like blowing my mind in a way.
Well, I mean, listen to Duncan Trussell podcast, man. I'm like not even good at this.
I'm not good at this either. That's the thing. I don't think I'm that great at doing this, but like I still have like, or at least still tend to find the motivation to just still do it. Right. Whether I'm like awkward, I'm quiet, whatever. Like I just still like to talk to people, just like to hear people, like to listen to people too.
Right. And you'll find tweak all of this as you go along. Like you'll see, you'll edit this.
I know.
Like, well, I think I'm going to do this different next time or this different or whatever. And you'll be like, oh, this I liked though. And you can build off of those things. Like this is, like once again, you're drawing hand number one or whatever. Like you just got to get a couple hands down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you thought about starting a podcast, right? Or like you want to?
I mean, I feel like it would be a lot of fun, but once again, like the thing that's stopping me is like, I've already got these other things that I want to like dedicate more time to in order to get them to be good, because then I'll actually have more to say. And like, I'm going to kind of leave the podcasting to you guys, the podcasters. And then I'll kind of like, I think it would be cool to be like a guest every now and again, but like,
definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the amount of time and attention that it would take to have a cool podcast is like more than I can give it.
Yeah.
And instead of birthing that baby, I'd rather just let someone else do it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I understand that. Well, whenever you come out here, we'll probably have to do like an in-person podcast too, which would be sick for like a day.
No doubt.
Yeah.
That would be super fun.
Let's see. 12:20.
Yeah, we've been doing this for about an hour and a half now.
Nice.
It's pretty fucking good. Yeah, that's a solid podcast, bro.
It's been a good talk. If you want to plug like your Instagram, website, whatever too, for the people to like, check you out. You can just tell if you just tell them like the names. I'll screenshot like your profile and your website and I'll put it on there.
Cool. Yeah. At Interspace Projections on Instagram.
Nice.
I can text that to you or whatever, but you also have my Instagram as well.
Yeah.
Talking over that.
I wrote it down too, like all your
cool
shit.
Fuck yeah.
And Interspace.shop, right?
I have, yeah, exactly. Nice. And then I have my link to my website in my Instagram. So
sweet.
Pretty easy to get a hold of and find.
Nice.
Cool, man.
All right, man.
Sweet.
Thanks
a lot.
Thanks
for talking to me. And that was a fun time, man.